So what value or critical issues do you think this project addresses?
Well, first of all, a little bit of background on the Arctic. The Arctic is dramatically changing. It's probably the area on the planet that's changing the most. It's warming rather quickly, and that's leading to a lot of environmental issues such as permafrost melt, glacial retreat, coastal erosion, and the Arctic is this rich diversity of wildlife and resources, some of the most valuable resources on the planet. And so there's a reason for all of us to care about that. It's got economic impact, it's got environmental impact, and the idea behind the whole Arctic spatial data infrastructure, as well as this pilot, is to bring together data and information, the best data and information, the most authoritative information that we have, so that we can really understand what's happening in that environment and make smart decisions as a result of it. So I think, with that as the backdrop, this pilot is essential because it brings together the one other thing about the Arctic is that it's surrounded by 8 different countries, each one with their own economies, their own internal policies, their own management, and bringing together a group like that around some common standards and some common goals in terms of information is really critical at this time. There are 8 countries that have land in the Arctic. Each one of them has different political environments, different challenges economically, from a policy standpoint. All of them have a vested interest in what's happening in the Arctic. It's rapidly changing. It's a focal point for energy and natural resources and transportation. And the ability to bring all this data and information together across these multiple cultures in each one of those countries, and in a way that it benefits the indigenous populace of the Arctic is essential, and another reason why the pilot is so key.
So what advances do you think happened because of the pilot for the spatial data infrastructure?
Well, one of the things that I'm really looking forward to is the engineering document that's coming out of the pilot. We've been interested in national spatial data infrastructure for quite some time, and really enhancing the ability to access and use multiple information. And as you can imagine, there's a lot of challenges to that, not the least of which are technology. And in this particular pilot, there were a lot of challenges that were overcome. For example, not being connected to the internet. As you can imagine, in the Arctic, there's places where you just don't have internet connections. Security. Cybersecurity is one of the biggest new fronts in terms of internet and internet technologies, and accessing data through some intense security portholes is another challenge. So the pilot addressed a lot of these issues, not just the data itself and the data interoperability, map services, but also the challenges that are sometimes driven by technology, sometimes driven by people. So that engineering report is going to be something that will not only teach us how to overcome some of those challenges in the Arctic, but with spatial data infrastructure worldwide.
What do you think are the importance of open OGC standards?
I don't think I can. I don't think I have enough words to speak as to how important those open geospatial standards are. The globe is getting smaller. The last few years have been littered with examples of humanitarian efforts that have taken multinational efforts to respond to them, from earthquakes to tsunamis to famine. There's a intersection of societal needs right now. So food, water, food, energy, water nexus. The information that we have from remote sensing and from on the ground in places like Africa, India, Australia, these are essential information when it comes to integrating that, understanding what's happening on our planet, and being able to respond in real time to some of these emergencies and humanitarian efforts. The OGC standards, particularly for geospatial data, are essential for ensuring that the data comes together in a way that is meaningful, that it's authoritative, and that it's accessible in real time. And so we've been, USGS, we've been a big supporter through the Federal Geographic Data Committee and through other efforts to try to really bring OGC standards along, to try to bring countries along in terms of their understanding of those and applying them in a way that makes that data as available as it can be.
Great, that. All of that, very good.
Where were you?
Is there anything that you learned from the demo that you didn't know? Any data that you were not available, that you were not aware of before the demo, or some interesting phenomena?
What I saw in the demo was really interesting applications of data in ways that we haven't seen before. So, for example, the porcupine caribou herd migration, taking high-resolution elevation data and overlaying those migration patterns and asking the question, does elevation impact the natural behavior of that herd species? That's a beautiful example of what can happen when data is available and interoperability and interoperable, because scientists can ask questions they haven't been able to ask before. And lo and behold, it does demonstrate that there's seasonal behaviors that the herd takes up that are relative and based on elevation. And so it's my hope that we continue to make more data sets available to allow that mashup to occur and have applications that we haven't expected and can't quite anticipate, but are only limited to the imagination of the scientists that are using the data.
Awesome. If I may ask a final question?
Yeah, please.
So if you were to talk to other people in agencies, other countries about, you should engage with an OGC interoperability program, or now it's called the innovation program, why would you do it? Why would you say, let's come together under this agile prototyping pilot? Why?
I can help you this, because it's a question we often ask after the test beds. It's what are the benefits that they will see? What are the obvious benefits? But then there's these really unexpected benefits as well.
So if right now with the ArcticSDP, I think we got Canada and the US, right? What if we can get the 8 countries?
Right.
What message can you give them?
Yes. Yeah. So, well, the first thing I would first start at home, to be honest with you. One of the biggest challenges that we all face in government is ensuring that the work that we're doing is relevant to our own people, to our own policies. And I speak a lot with my different colleagues that lead other mapping agencies around the world. And I think it's fair to say that this is a common challenge. There's government, when you look within government, there are organizations focused on transportation. There are some organizations focused on natural resources. There's organizations that are focused on infrastructure, tax policy, right? Every one of those organizations needs geospatial data, and they're more efficient by using geospatial data. What OGC offers and what an interoperability pilot offers is the ability to ensure that as all of those agencies are making strategic investments in geospatial data, it's coming together in an interoperable way that adds value to everybody. So the USGS needs good address data. The USGS needs good parcel data. But we don't create parcel data or address data. That happens in the Department of Census, or it happens in another bureau. So I would first start at home and say every government can benefit internally from OGC standards, from interoperability pilots that ensure that their data and information is as effective as and accessible and integratable as it can be within their country. When we look beyond our borders, the value only goes up there, to me, from there. There's, you can think of it as if you're compliant with standards, then you're open, and as a result of that, you've got the world as a channel for the delivery of your data and information. So when we're open, for example, vendors can pick up our information and deliver it, add value to it in the process. I have a great story in the National Geospatial Program where simply by making our data open and standard and accessible through web services, we had developers pick up our data and build mobile applications to distribute that data. So from our standpoint, of our desire to increase access to our data, increase use cases for our data, here I had an external developer from industry building a distribution channel for a mobile platform for data that we had collected simply because we had made it open and accessible. So there's real tangible value there to my program simply by preparing the data in a way that it was open and standard.